going live a little bit later. And some things, of course, I'm a busy person. I'm gonna go ahead get into the disclaimer. I'm gonna go ahead and do my copyright disclaimer, and we're gonna definitely get to the show. There's been a lot going on in regards to Diddy, what's being talked about, what's being conversated. People are talking about Kid Cudi testifying. He showed up in a black coat, t-shirt, jeans, cool, chilling. A lot was exposed, y'all, in regards to he's reporting that they were in his house and he got a call that they were in his house and he was like, okay, that's what's up, let me come on through. And then he had to think about it. It's like, well, what am I doing? You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get into a lot of stuff, but let me go ahead and do my disclaimer. Thanks for being here, everyone. I appreciate you all. Yeah, it's I'm sure a lot of people are probably, just like, whew, this Diddy stuff is not easy. And the courts, the people, the jurors have the weekend off. They have today off, of course, the weekend, Monday off, and then they return Tuesday. So let's go ahead and do the disclaimer. I appreciate you guys for being here. Okay. So, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comma, comments, comma. What happened? Well, let me see. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comma, comments, comma, news reporting, comma, teaching, comma, scholarships and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged, in our opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. Okay, I had to do that twice. I had to finish it. Okay, so we're going to get into the Kid Cudi situation. Kind of scary though, when you think about what's said, what was conversated on the stand in regards to him thinking Cassie and Diddy are done. They weren't. Him thinking this man is at my house. How did you get in? Him, and this is the other thing. Real talk, y'all. Would you be terrified if somebody came to your crib? Because they could literally, when you think about it, stop playing with me. They could literally plant something in your crib and you would know. So that's kind of scary. It's a good thing that the police got there before Kid Cudi got there, but anything could have been planted at his house. Real talk. That's the scariest stuff. Now, Kid Cudi said he thought he might have allegedly locked the door and it didn't seem like it was forced entry, but alleged Kid Cudi had gifts for family in his house and they started to open them. You know what I'm saying? And maybe he was trying to see if Kid Cudi was addressing some of those gifts to Cassie. But that's the other thing. Remember how it was alleged that Diddy asked his family to give him 20K because she started dating somebody else? This man is a trip. Think about it. I don't like when guys say, oh, Cassie, Cassie, Cassie. They both were toxic. But this is the biggest thing. It was so toxic, not a great relationship, not a great work environment all the time. Okay, so Diddy and Cassie have their times, their ups and downs. The work people have their times, their ups and downs. And then they got people on the stand talking about RIP to Kim Porter. They got people on the stand talking about Kim Porter. She's not here. You know what I'm saying? And unless we got some information, RIP to Kim, but unless we got something of her statement, they really shouldn't be mentioning her. And then they're talking about Gina and what Gina experienced. Now, is Gina MRA? Possibly. Because remember how I told y'all 9 months ago, 8 months ago, that they're not going to want Cassie and Gina's story to be parallel. Good morning, good morning, good morning. They're not going to want and Cassie and Gina's story to be parallel because that's going to look so problematic. But this is the biggest thing. He's in jail. In regards to his case, he's innocent till proven guilty. I have to say it in a court of law, and the jury's going to have to decide. But when we look at the bigger picture of course, people have their moments, and it's like he'll be nice to some people, but then he'll be kind of rude or disrespectful to others. And that's the one thing people need to realize. You got to be careful who you date. You got to be careful who you spend time with. And you got to be careful who you employ with. If anybody else would say this is a normal work situation, people are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You would not think that an employer would act this way. Real talk. You would not think that an employer would act this way and in this form. And then, of course, if a boss was dating an employee, he's the bigger, the bigger person. He's the more established. Other people look at it different when it's outside this case. Does that make sense? He was the boss and he dated his employee, and the employee went through a lot. And it's almost sounding like any situation that would make him angry, it's almost like he took it out on Cassie. That's the sad part. Any situation that made him angry, alleged, it's almost like he took it out on Cassie. And then they were trying to make it seem like, oh, he respected Kim. Go back to some of his bodyguards saying that Kim, R.A.P. to Kim Porter, Kim and Diddy had a situation. Go back to some of their videos. Look up what some of his bodyguards had to say about Diddy and Kim. Go back and look it up. How long has he been in jail? I want to say 8-9 months. At least 8 or 9 months, because we started covering when he went in. And then my page blew up after that because we had 3,000 subscribers. He's been in jail 9 or 10 months. I don't think it's been 11 months. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Yeah, so it's interesting. You got to realize this is a job. And some people aren't thinking about that. So the job was doing different things with different people, and certain things was paid from the job. But we're going to get to some clips and we're going to talk about what happened, y'all. But I just need people to realize, Cassie went with a lot of stuff and she should not have. She should not have. Mothers teach their daughters different. I couldn't imagine anybody treating his daughters that way. And some men have talked about that. How would he feel if somebody treated his family that way? So let's get to some of the clips. But I thank everyone for being here. Good morning. Good morning.
On a private plane with other executive members, they were headed to Las Vegas, and he said he heard glass break, and he turned around and he described seeing Sean Combs.
Okay.
So George Kaplan, he's 34 years old, and he used to be the executive assistant for Sean Combs. And he finished his testimony today and said that he saw Sean Combs being violent on one incident on a private plane with other executive members. They were headed to Las Vegas, and he said he heard glass break, and he turned around and he described seeing Sean Combs over Cassie Ventura with a whiskey glass in his hand. So in that particular instance, he didn't talk specifically about seeing any physical abuse being done, but he also said that Cassie yelled out, "Isn't anybody seeing this?" And then the prosecutor said, "Why?"
So Cassie was calling for help, and none of the employees did nothing. Is anybody seeing this? None of the employees helped, assist, or call the police, and the police was not there waiting when that plane landed. So concerning. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Didn't you do something? And he said, "I was 23 years old. I thought I had this great fortune of working with an icon." And he didn't feel like it was his place to step in. He also said no one on that plane stepped in, but he could not give details specifically about any bruises or things that he saw in that particular instance. But then he described seeing Cassie Ventura with her, I believe he described her hand sort of in her head, on her head. He also described another instance where he went to the home of Combs, and Combs called him up on the intercom for something, and he said Cassie Ventura was on the bed and it looked like she had a bruise on her forehead. He said, "I saw her for all of 3 seconds," and then was asked by Combs to go get some lotion and some witch hazel, which he believed must have been for Ventura. And then he said there was a third incident that was kind of the final straw for him as to why he decided to step down as an executive assistant to Combs. And this is when he talked about another girlfriend, Gina, who's been brought up in testimony before. And Kaplan says that he saw Combs throwing a green apple at her, green apples, but wasn't sure if they were real apples or if they were decorative. But again, showing sort of the violent behavior.
If it's real apples, that's hurtful. If it's decorative apples, if it's made of foam, but still, Diddy should not have been throwing apples at Gina either. it just goes to talk about how he was with women he dated. So concerning. And then he would often threaten his employees, allege. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
In nature that the prosecution is trying to prove and has been pointing to all along throughout this trial. So I think what was interesting for jurors to hear, though, is for him to talk about sort of this violence that he saw and this rage that he describes Combs having. He said that Combs grew him, as a man, and that he appreciated everything that Combs did for him in terms of inspiring him. He said something to the effect of, I didn't know I could go to these depths if it weren't for Combs in terms of my work ethic and how important it was to sort of be on point and be about your business. So he really also sort of toward the end on cross-examination talked about the amount of respect and love
Good
that he
morning.
has for Sean Combs even to this day. So it's kind of interesting because he also mentioned that his father was suffering from prostate cancer as the reason he told Sean Combs that he was leaving. But at 34 years old, and then being able to reflect and say I was 23, he really, I felt like for the jurors when I was watching their reaction to him, many times he basically said, like, I have a lot of respect for Sean Combs. And I don't know that he had this.
I just think certain people are going to say certain stuff not to tick Diddy off. I'm going to have to testify, but I'm also going to have to try and throw out little comments here and there. Nice comments here and there. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Say that in court or what he gets out of saying that now. So I thought that was very interesting that he did so much of the sort of other side to what we've been hearing about in court. Scott Muscady, aka Kid Cudi, he corroborated some of what we heard from Cassie Ventura. And he started off by talking about in 2011 getting a frantic phone call from Cassie Ventura saying, you got to come. I'm really concerned. I'm scared. I'm nervous because she said that Combs found out about their relationship.
Now,
So in the process of.
Now, check this picture out. Who's the shirtless man behind Diddy? Real talk. Who's the shirtless? Just think about that. Who's the shirtless man behind Diddy, though? Real talk. Hello. Cassie is off to the side singing happy birthday. Let me show y'all a little bit more of Cassie. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Making sure she's safe. He winds up putting her up in a hotel in Los Angeles. And then he said he called Combs and said some choice words to him about wanting to meet up with him. He said that he believed
he got
that
his
Combs
arm
was at
around
his home
Diddy?
and that they were going to have a sort of, real conversation. But he got to his home and he described seeing gifts that were unwrapped and that his dog was locked away in the bathroom and that normally he wouldn't have done that with his dog. So he believed that someone had broken into his house. And he testified that he believed that person was Sean Combs, although there were cameras that he said were turned a different way that normally wouldn't have been turned. So whoever did break in was intentional. Again, his testimony about changing things that may have concealed the identity of whoever did that. The defense pointed out that there was no forensic evidence, no video evidence of Sean Combs being a part of that break-in, and then more importantly, that Molotov cocktail that was thrown inside Kid Cudi's Porsche 911. And I think when we think about where is the racketeering, where is the criminal conspiracy, part of the criminal conspiracy lays out arson as one of
Look
the
at him
elements.
talking, whoever that is.
Possibly being able to show the arson. However, again, the defense made note that there were female fingerprints found when they tested DNA in the car after he reported this to police. So the hard part is getting to the Sean Combs definitely did this, but Cudi throughout his testimony insinuated that it was Combs, and then he said later on that Combs apologized 2 years after he last saw him at the Soho House. People started laughing in the courtroom as he's describing how he first sees Combs. He said, I entered this room and Combs was looking out of a window with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain. At which point, again, there's some laughter in the courtroom, and knowing that
That's scary for Kid Cudi, too. Real talk, y'all. His hands behind his back. He don't know if he got a blicky or he don't know if he got something. And then also it was reported that Kid Cudi said Diddy was kept trying to offer him water. Let me offer you some water. Baby. I'm surprised Kid Cudi did what he did. Kid Cudi seems very, very bold. Can I say that? And it did not seem like Kid Cudi, because in the stand, did y'all hear if Kid Cudi went with a bodyguard or did Kid Cudi go by himself? But see, I did hear that his team was setting up the meetings and him and Diddy was talking without people being involved. But Kid Cudi got some, he got some, he ain't seem scared. But like he said, Kid Cudi thought he thought Cassie and Diddy were done. But man, can you think about how men are hearing this story? Come on, think about it. How men are hearing the story now, and if they dated Cassie on the side, they might have been concerned if they, because she was doing stuff without umbrellas. Hello, she was doing stuff with sores in her mouth. Hello, she was doing stuff with concerns with her, meow. Baby, I don't know. Some of these men are like, that's why, possibly. That could be concerning when you think about it now, even for Kid Cudi. Maybe that's why he seemed a little stressed because he been hearing the case of how Cassie was out there. Cassie was out there, Diddy had her out there. And no girl should feel like they should have to do that for their man. But see, that's what that Hollywood thing was. People were talking about that swinger life. So people are thinking this is how they do things. No, not with your boss, sweetie. Not with your boss. Let's continue fair use reaction clip. But Cassie got some money though. Let's
Rapper,
continue.
he does right well. You get this picture of someone that's very calm and almost looking like they're gonna do something. But in the end, he said the conversation went well. They talked about the fact that Cassie Ventura was going back to Combs. And at one point, the defense said, so basically, she played you. Another moment where everyone's like, oh my, this is getting interesting.
The answer to that one?
Yes, basically. So Ventura decides to go back with Combs. Cudi says...
So what's happening is they're singing him happy birthday, and he don't like it. So he wants the clapping of the hands happy birthday. So that's why they changed it. Yeah, can you tell the difference? Yeah, he didn't like how they were singing happy birthday to him. So they had to switch it up and do the soul one. See how he dancing? Yeah. So that's what that's about. So I want to play some of the videos of what I used in the background, but then certain songs, I think Happy Birthday just got where people can play it on videos. But for a while, you couldn't play Happy Birthday on your videos. Yeah, did y'all know that? Okay, let's continue fair use reaction clip.
You know what? I want bygones to be bygones. But he mentioned that he wanted it to end because he felt like things were going too far. And he was concerned, he said, not only about his own safety, but Ventura's safety. At the end of that meeting at the Soho House, Kid Cudi described shaking Combs' hand and saying, but let's talk about my car. And Combs said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Good to see you again, Rick and Nick. These guys are from Somerset.
Okay, so that's the other thing. How much did celebrities know? How much did celebrities know? Did they know? And will other celebrities have to take the stand? I'm trying to think if Kid Cudi mentioned any messages he got. He talked about the conversation. He talked about Diddy being in his house. He talked about they put the dog in the bathroom and the dog was never the same after that situation. So what did he do to the dog? Why my dog not normal now? Why my dog don't seem normal now? Why you come to my crib, you break in or you walk in, the door unlocked. Why the dog not normal? Alleged. And it's alleged the dog's no longer here with us. So yeah, that's just so when you think about everybody that talks about it, either they're threatened with their job situation or there's a concern how they're being talked to. Okay, yeah, we had the events. Da, 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 da. Did y'all know a few days ago when they were cross-examining one of his employees, I can't remember the guy's name, when they were cross-examining one of the employees, they said, oh, you look happy. He said, if you only knew, in that picture, I had to find a certain type of makeup for Cassie. And if I didn't find it, it was going to be a problem. If y'all packing, y'all should have 4 or 5 things for them traveling because it just seems like people would struggle getting stuff for him. You know what I'm saying? You should have 20 bottles. If he, 100 bottles, and maybe that's why he has so many bottles. But as they travel, you should make sure you have cubbies that hold 5 or 10 things. That way you're never without. But he was like, no, I wasn't happy in that picture. I'm smiling because I'm happy that I found what Cassie needed. So employees were always panicking. Oh, this is the other thing, y'all. They talked about the hotels. And if Diddy was to check in, he would have to put like a large deposit down, whether it was 500 or 1,000. I remember reading it. And whenever he would leave, they would have to do a deep cleaning of the hotel when he would leave, because allegedly there would be candle spots in the hotel and then there would be baby oil all over. So they had to do a deep cleaning of the hotel sometimes when he would leave. And they would have to put like a special sprayer outside the rooms, maybe because, back then they were doing stuff they weren't supposed to be doing. But yeah, they talked about a lot with him checking in hotels and then checking out. And then certain employees had to clean up the hotel because back in the day, remember, people would sell photos of famous people leaving hotel rooms, a little nasty, whatever. Like the video, like the video. The smell, yeah. Oh yeah. I ain't think about that. I ain't think about that. The smell of, yeah. Because if they're doing FOs for days and you ain't, you know, showered, yep, you right. That, yep, you right, you right, you're right. And then we don't know if they were, smoking something. You know what I mean? And how you gonna tell him that, he can't smoke? But it could be that too. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, I'm sure there was more than candles because remember, I'm not gonna gross people out, but remember they talked about red stuff being in spots and stuff, spots of stuff. That's gross. And and we're hearing he did a lot of that outside. Now let's go back 8 or 9 months, you guys, right? Remember how they said he has videos at his house? It sounded like he had videos at the hotels too. And then alleged Cassie had some of those videos. But could you imagine he did a lot of stuff outside his house, which he should have, not around his kids. But, it was like a free for all inviting these workers to the hotels. But yeah, the smells, the spots, oh my goodness. But I don't even think it don't even seem like to me 500 or 1,000 would be enough. You can't replace most couches for 500 or 1,000. So if that couch got messed up or the mattress got messed up, I'm surprised they didn't ask for 10K, 5,000. You can't replace it. You know what I'm saying? So most hotels probably had to keep extra stuff because wonder if they really had to shut down a room because they messed it up so bad and they could never rent that room out. A lot of hotels, they have several different rooms. Could you imagine having to shut down a hotel room and you're never able to go back in that room because he's messed it up so much? You got to think about carpet. You got to think about furniture, mattress. Yuck, nasty. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Good morning, Paris. How are you? Let's continue. Hold on. I got to turn the volume up.
From that Molotov cocktail where the red interior is ruined and it's black.
Okay, so she's talking about Kid Cudi's car being ruined. Kid Cudi was out with some friends or something, and the girl has said his car is not going to be drivable after that. I don't think there's certain words I can't say. So let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
And smoky. So the jurors got a real clear picture of what the aftermath
Yes, bring in lights at certain times. Oh my goodness.
Look like from that Molotov cocktail. I think because Kid Cudi played such a big role when you think about that potential arson, which was listed in that civil lawsuit, going back to the one that Cassie filed. It seemed like Cudi came in here ready to go. He got out of his car smoking a cigarette. He walked in, focused on that stand. Sean Combs was definitely paying attention, but I really noticed him looking back as Kid Cudi was walking in to sort of see him. And I guess they haven't seen each other in a few years based on Cudi's testimony. But yeah,
and didn't they say years after Diddy kind of said, I apologize for what happened? So it's almost, am I wrong? Did I hear that wrong? Didn't it seem like at some point in time when Kid Cudi and Diddy ran into each other years later, he was kind of like apologizing because remember he was in his love era then. If I'm wrong, quote me. Tell me I'm wrong. I could have swore almost Diddy admitted he apologized for all that happened. Hey man, sorry about all that happened. Yep, see, you heard that too. So he admitted. You admitted to messing up his vehicle. I knew I didn't hear that wrong because I heard it 2 places. I was like, wait a minute. So why didn't they address that better in court? So you're admitting that he apologized for all the foolery. Yes, he admitted that he apologized. That's what I wanted to hear. Even in the transcript, I wanted to hear them say, so you're admitting that Diddy apologized for the back and forth, not just about you and Cassie, but possibly breaking into your home, possibly injuring, ruining your car. And then, like I said, that's scary. People breaking into your crib, they could plant something in your spot, But luckily, the police got there before Kid Cudi. Let's continue. Fair use. Reaction clip. So concerning.
It's interesting to see these two people. Same industry. Same.
Yeah, Paris. He could have easily planted something in Kid Cudi's house, and then, so Kid Cudi had to call the police because he could have easily planted something, and Kid Cudi could have went to jail. My car's messed up, but now I'm caught with X, Y, and Z. You can't. You got to be careful who you date. You got to be careful who you try and date because their ex might be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, baby. You got to be careful who you date. And you can't take everybody around your family. Real talk. And certain relationships, give it time. Because I be hearing my friends be telling me stuff. The ones that are single, baby, you got to be careful. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Industry, someone that Kid Cudi says, he respected, and, they were friends at one point. And that was part of the conversation that he said they had at the Soho House. Like, you knew that Cassie was my girl. Why would you do that? And his thing was, well, it was my understanding you guys had broken up. So he didn't see it as such a big deal.
A former makeup artist is expected to testify next.
We might hear more.
So we're going to hear from the makeup artist. This is a concern, too. This makeup artist knew Cassie for a very long time. The good thing is she got Cassie out of there when her and Diddy had an issue. And then she had called one of her doctor friends to help Cassie, but they also didn't go to the hospital or the police. He must have put so much fear in people. You go to the police, it's going to be a problem. Are y'all surprised Cassie didn't? Paris. Are y'all surprised Cassie didn't pull a Tyler Perry on this dude? Grits and hot pan. Are y'all surprised Cassie did not get this dude all the way together? What? You can't keep putting your hand. And it seemed like he got worse and worse and worse and worse. Tyler Perry, hot grease and grits. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
From the makeup artist about what she witnessed in reference to Cassie Ventura, because Ventura testified that there were times where she would try to cover up some of the bruising with makeup.
They showing the bruises.
Witness, we get a better understanding and picture of what the prosecution is saying, because these are their witnesses that they're calling. But the defense always has this opportunity to sow doubt into the credibility of each person, or just try to make a case, obviously, for Sean Combs. So it becomes this sort of back and forth, and the details some days are very interesting, fascinating, and honestly sometimes hard to even report on. But I think we just are all waiting to see where is this going. And I hear a lot of people commenting, where's the sex trafficking, where's the racketeering? And when you hear that a trial is going to last this long, 6 to 8 weeks, it's going to be a bit of a slow, road to the very end. I mean, you just have to wait. I don't know if they have any other sort of bombshell witnesses, but we knew that Cassie Ventura was probably going to be, one of the most important people and impactful people that we would hear from, just based on the indictment and who's involved.
Yeah, it's something that people are constantly saying, oh, I don't hear it. It's only this physical. No, they cooking, y'all. You gotta let them cook. They cooking. They're showing an environment in regards to work. They're showing a relationship that was very, very, very sad. They're showing a lot. People need to let it cook, and they're not letting it cook. And that's the concern. And I get people want to kind of be debatable, or this don't seem like, or I have a lawyer friend. This was a whole sad situation. I'm surprised Cassie didn't put hands on. I'm sorry. I'm surprised. And did he stop putting hands on alleged other people because they reacted back? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Hold on. Fair use reaction clip. And I don't condone violence. I'm just saying, but sometimes you hear women get back at the dude. Real talk. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Tracking several trials, as we always do, around the country. Today in New York, jury hearing testimony from rapper Kid Cudi in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial in federal court. Our Kelly Craft is going to join us in just a moment with the very latest.
We're also monitoring this courtroom in Tennessee, where we're bringing you the post-conviction relief hearing for Zachary Adams. He's trying to get his conviction overturned for the murder of nursing student. We'll get you back into that testimony in just a moment.
And in Massachusetts, testimony gets back underway on 34 Fairview.
But we are going to start this hour with New York City. The huge witness there in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. We have day and night artist Kid Cudi on the stand. Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft is joining us from on the ground. You've been inside of that courthouse, Kelly. Tell us the latest.
Hey there, Julia and Ted. So just some takeaways with Kid Cudi on the stand. One of the things that they asked him, this was under direct examination, and it got a reaction.
Don't forget to subscribe, you guys. There's about 544 in the building. Please subscribe. We're definitely trying to get to 37K. We had hit it. But I want to maintain at 37K. If there's 500 in the building, please subscribe and turn on your notification. Thanks for being here, everyone. Let's listen. Fair use reaction clip.
There's the main courtroom, of course, and then there's an overflow room. You can't make any noise in that main courtroom, but in the overflow room, there was a lot of laughter because he was asked, what was your reaction to your car being torched? And he just kind of looked, he paused, and then he said, what the? And then you know what he said after that. And then at one point, even prior to that, they asked him if his car, if his Porsche could be repaired, and he started yawning. So obviously a little too early here this morning in New York City for Kid Cudi to be on the stand. So he was yawning at some points, but he was talking about that incident when he found out that his Porsche had been torched. He said he had gotten a call from his dog sitter, and then he went in. We saw some photographs of the torching of that Porsche.
Yeah, I thought about that too, but he was constantly injuring her though, and it seems as if the did you see the one on her above her eyebrow? That one was a huge one. She literally could have had a concussion. She could have passed that day, and he still kept coming at her. That day when she had that big gash in her by her eyebrow, she could have passed that day. You know what I'm saying? When you watch movies or you hear someone just bump their head and they're out, they're gone. So it's just interesting to me that he wasn't worried about, and there's words I have to be careful over here. It's interesting to me that he wasn't worried about taking her out and her never not waking up. He just continued and continued and continued. Even with the apples, allegedly hitting Gina with the apples. You're not worried about hitting her in a certain spot and taking her out. There's certain spots, you guys, you got to be careful hitting people in a certain way. They're gone. So it just baffles me that he continued to put hands on people. It's interesting, no employees though that we're hearing. Well, I'll take that back. The chef. I take that back. And then remember, he asked the employee to do a false police report, and then the employee never did that. So yeah, there's other people. And then remember how he came out and not a lot of clothes on in front of the chef? Oh my goodness. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Saw the inside of the door, and then we have some testimony we can put up for you on the screen in which he was talking about what exactly took place. Let's go ahead and put that up for you. He was saying that he told the jury that after Combs found out he was...
Yeah, Paris was, I don't know if you were here. He didn't like how they were singing happy birthday to him. So he made them do the you know how sometimes in parties we sing two versions and then the second one is the clapping of the hands? Yeah, at first he didn't like how they were singing to him, and then he switched it up. That's why they now clapping and they moving a little bit better. He didn't like the first version. Let's continue.
Combs allegedly broke into his house. When he got back home, Cudi noticed that his security cameras had been moved and his dog was locked in the bathroom. He testified that he had filed a police report. Also, some other testimony that we can put up for you in which he was talking more about the Molotov cocktail car fire. This was in 20...
Yeah, he didn't like how they were singing to him, girl. And that's why the title says only a narcissist directs people how he wants happy birthday sung to him. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
2012. The jury did see some photographs of the car damage. He testified, it looks like the top of my Porsche was cut open, and that's where the Molotov...
So this is the big question, y'all. Will some of his friends have to testify? Will a French Montana? Will a DJ Khaled? Some of his friends within the last 5 years. Will any of those people have to take the stand? This trial is going to go for a while. Did y'all see that video of DJ Khaled? Go check it out. Real talk. Fair use reaction clip.
A cocktail was put in. So the cross-examination of Kid Cudi is just getting underway. So what he's being asked by Mr. Steele, defense counsel, one of the defense counsel for Sean Combs, is about his relationship with Cassie and how he had said on the stand, Kid Cudi, that he felt Cassie played him because he was under the impression that him, Sean Combs, as well as Cassie were no longer dating. So Mr. Steele used his words and he said, yeah, I did feel like that. And so he said he was upset that Cassie had returned back to Sean Combs. So really interesting to see him up there on the stand, very cool, calm, collected in his testimony. Sean Diddy is sitting back in his chair, just listening. When we took a break a little bit earlier, Sean got up and really did a lot of stretching. So maybe he's tired too.
It is day 9, right, Kelly? They have been at this for now 2 weeks, going into this long weekend. But thank you for all of those details coming out of that courtroom.
Yeah, Kelly Craft will be with us pretty much on the hour, every hour, and updating us as we get the very latest for you in the case against Sean Diddy Combs with no cameras, but we have our team there. Jack Rice is watching along with us. He's a criminal defense attorney. He's a former prosecutor. Jack, your thoughts on the significance of the Kid Cudi portion of all of this? if the jury believes it, and I don't know why they wouldn't, this is a scenario where Sean Combs is now trying to control-ish, or at least hurt Cassie because of her new relationship that she's now left him, so he is still menacing. How effective is that for the federal government?
Julia, this is one more brick in the wall. I mean, that's really what the prosecution is doing. And remember, this conspiracy concept is basically designed to take every bad act, regardless of who did it, how they were connected to Combs, and then wrap them around them. And so this is just one more piece of that. And what I think you're really getting from Kid Cudi is credibility. I mean, there's nothing about this that doesn't even feel false. It feels true.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Cassie and Diddy was in a toxic relationship, but he was in a toxic relationship with other people too. Will Gina show up? Will Young Miami have to speak? He was dating other people. Real talk. Like the video. Please subscribe. We're trying to hit 37K. If I can please get 400 people to please subscribe and thank you. We're trying to hit 1 million by the end of the year. We're trying to hit 1 million by the end of the year. Thanks for being here, everyone. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you know where you're watching from. Press 5 if you've been here before, where you're watching from. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. And if you're watching from a phone, please double tap the screen. If you're watching from a phone, please double tap the screen to hit the like.
True in the sense of how he's delivering it. I recognize that the defense is trying to say, well, yeah, you might have some biases and you might have some issues tied to Cass.
Yeah, why wasn't there more protection? And do you notice that a lot of people were scared to go to the hospital, call the police at an event? They were very scared. He must have, and see, that's what I want people to tell us. Why didn't you? Well, he told me if I called the police, this is what would happen to me. Good morning, California. You know what I'm saying? I'm waiting for somebody to say that. I was told if I call the police, this is what would happen to me. They'll probably say objection, but I want to hear it. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Seeing how those were played and how that might motivate you to either exaggerate or post blame in ways that you can't. But the problem is it's coming across as really, really credible, and that's going to resonate with the jury. And it's up to them to sort of take that brick and put it into the wall. But I think it's happening very slowly, very carefully, very clearly.
Jack, this is really the first witness who's taking the stand who has a lot of fame, money, and power in their own right. Cassie Ventura, sure, and Don Richard, they had some fame, but a lot of it was connected to Sean Combs. He controlled their careers, is what we're hearing in court. Kid Cudi, I think, is one of the first people to come in who this jury can really wonder why he would have any reason to lie.
Oh, boy, Julia, it's such a great way you put that, because that's always the question, isn't it? I mean, when we think about somebody testifying, one of the things that you want to do is you want to basically introduce this person to the jury and say, understand who they are, their motivations, where they are sort of in the context of this case, and that you can trust them if you're introducing them. So when they take the stand and they start talking, you say, I believe that.
And Kid Cudi said thanks to everyone that reached out to him. It was a stressful time. He's glad it's done and over. Who's going to take the stand Tuesday? Don't forget, they're off today. They have the weekend, and they come back Tuesday. Other people are saying they're surprised that these jurors get to go home. It's too long of a period to keep them in hotels. That would be too expensive. So many people are like, how are they not going to be speaking with family members over the holiday? And maybe they've given them instructions. Go home, chill by yourself. You could be with your certain ones, but you can't talk about the case. So that's a concern for some people too, that the jurors get to go home. But you can't expect them to be locked away for this amount of time for no trial. They're already missing regular work. You know what I mean? Fair use reaction clip.
Because of, as you just described, his own personal position, he's credible. What he's saying isn't hardly in some ways tied to Combs himself. He is who he is in his own right. And so when he says something, you're going to have far more of a tendency to believe it. By the way, a lot of defense attorneys sometimes, and prosecutors too, when they're inexperienced, they forget that first part of a piece of testimony. When you put somebody on...
His mic going in and out. Yeah, let me see. Let's see. Yeah, she's not the one on trial. But have you noticed, and I talked about this, Paris. Have y'all noticed how they're trying to discredit everybody that hit that stand? And we've heard in court cases that's what they do. But have y'all noticed that Diddy's team is making him seem like a saint? And you're the one Did you confuse stuff? And then they're asking questions several times in certain different ways. And let me show you proof of what you're saying is a lie. They're working hard at trying to discredit everybody. But he's the one in jail, though. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Hold on one second. Yeah, it's a concern. It's a huge concern. Let me go back. Okay.
Cudi's testimony, week 2 in general. But right now I want to bring on Elizabeth Milner, our longtime reporter, who was inside that courtroom for Kid Cudi's testimony. Now, one of the things I want to ask you about, Elizabeth, is we're reading the transcript, right? We're reading what he said on the stand. What was his tone like? Because I got to tell you, he was hitting one-liner after one-liner after one-liner. By the way, shows up in court, leather jacket, smoking a cigarette. I mean, this is Kid Cudi, major celebrity comes in. What was the substance of what he was saying? And I got to ask you the tone.
Fresh haircut.
Well, obviously, I didn't see the cigarette smoking part. I was inside the courtroom when this was going on, but it was a packed courtroom today, Jesse, despite it being very cold outside today, despite it even pouring down raining this morning when I came to court today. A lot of people were inside that courtroom because a lot of people wanted to know what did Scott Cudi, aka Kid Cudi, really have to say. So when he walks inside the courtroom, to your point, Jesse, he was very, very casual. He had on a leather jacket. It was a little bedazzled. He had on a white t-shirt. He had on jeans, something that you kind of really don't see necessarily, especially in federal court. I mean, all the other witnesses have been in suits, even some of the escort witnesses, but for Kid Cudi, he just came in very casual. He just walked right to the witness stand, didn't pay Diddy any type of attention from what I could see of him, but he got onto the witness stand and swore that oath like he normally, like all the other witnesses do, and then that's when we got into the testimony. And let me just say, Jesse, there was so much testimony. I was just writing things down and down and down again because there was really so much. And we knew about kind of the Molotov cocktail incident, especially because it was laid out in Cassie's federal lawsuit, right? But just hearing Kid Cudi explain it from his own words were just a whole nother level, I could say.
People were laughing, right? People were laughing when he was testifying because he made that one comment that he sees Sean Combs. He had a meeting with him and said he looked like a Marvel supervillain. Were people laughing?
No. Yes, people were laughing, but if you're going to ask if Diddy was laughing, it didn't seem like he found that joke necessarily funny, but there was definitely some courtroom laughter, even from some of the jurors who were in the box. They were laughing as well, too, but from what I could see of Diddy, it didn't seem like he had much laughter going on in that specific moment, which was a complete 180 from kind of his demeanor when George Kaplan was testifying, where he seemed a little more jovial. He was laughing along, but when Kid Cudi came on the stand, it felt like the smile just went down, and he had more of a serious demeanor and serious tone listening to Kid Cudi testify.
Because, Kid Cudi was providing some quite important pieces of damning evidence against.
Yeah, Kid Cudi dropped a lot of information we didn't even know, so he definitely had to take the stand. And then some celebrity people are calling him out. You shouldn't have took the stand. It's like, man, he damaged, alleged, my vehicle, and he broke into my home, alleged, and my dog was never the same. Hello, I'm gonna speak up. You would if that happened to you. People are very protective, and they should be, of their property and their home. Real talk. Like I was saying, he could have literally planted something in that man's home. And then allege him and his friends was opening the gifts that you already wrapped up. People don't like rewrapping stuff. Hello, it's around the holidays and you unwrapping my stuff because you may want to figure out if that's going to be a gift for Cassie. But see, you got to be careful who you date, though. Because Diddy was kind of like, man, I thought we was cool. It's like, well, I thought y'all broke up. So let's continue. Fair use. Cassie is a beautiful girl. Cassie was looking for other men to date to get out of this situation. Diddy did not want her to date anyone more famous than him, more career oriented, looked at or liked in the media. Look, every friend she had, Diddy had a problem with her getting close to people. Diddy had a problem with her getting close to people because what would happen is if you get in my ear, I'm going to leave you alone to be with this person. And Diddy didn't like it. You got to remember, it's being alleged Diddy asked her family, Cassie family, for $20K. They had to take out a second mortgage. And then a week later, Diddy gives the money back. Control. Toxic relationship, toxic work environment, toxic, period. Generally considerate to some, but very rude and toxic, and he'll get you in order so you know not to fool with him. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Sean Combs, and he talked to us.
She tried to get out several times. That's why she was dating other people.
He took away from his direct examination because the prosecution, in my opinion, I was talking about before, they're calling him not only to corroborate, I think, the account of Cassie, but to establish
they both played a part
of racketeering, right? The underlying crimes of maybe kids.
They both played a part, and his employees play a part. So concerning. Be kind in the comments, you guys. They both played a part. His employees played a part because y'all got to realize it was asked the guy that recently quit. He said, "Yep, I quit. I had to take care of my dad." Diddy was like, "Okay, cool, whatever." And then he had said that he went to KK. KK is Diddy's right hand. KK holds Diddy's money. She's the one that's organizing a lot of stuff. So he was like, "You quit, but did KK quit?" No, she stayed. So his employees act like this is what happens around here. That ain't normal. Any other job you would say that's not normal. You go work somewhere, you wouldn't think that employees are this is what's happening to employees. And as they travel, it just doesn't make it to where it's okay to even remember a few days prior an employee was just chilling. Diddy came in, a story had got out that he had laid hands on Cassie. He thought the employee did it. And he went into his computer looking up his history. He's like, "Man, what are you doing? I didn't put the story up. I'm just chilling. You out and about having fun. You come in interrupting my peace." And a lot of these employees worked long, long hours because of his lifestyle. So let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Press 3 if you know where you're watching from. Press 3 if you know where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here before where you're watching from. Toxic environment, toxic relationship. And a lot of go back and listen to what Young Miami said over the last 2 or 3 years. Go back. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Kidnapping, arson. Talk to us about some of the big moments from his direct examination, and then we'll talk about what the cross-examination was like.
Right, because the jury has been hearing about Scott Mescudi a lot, and they've been referring to Kid Cudi as Scott Mescudi during this. So seeing Kid Cudi in the flesh, I'm sure a lot of people wanted to know what did he have to say about December 2011 specifically. Now,
Good morning,
around
Houston.
that time frame, police actually responded to Kid Cudi's then home. He's no longer in that home anymore now, but they responded to a call about a break-in.
Oh, he's no longer in that home. Good, because yesterday I was watching one of my favorites, and they had put the address up. But now, if you're living in that home, hello. Fair use reaction clip.
At his home. So he said that day actually started with a call from Cassie herself about 5:30, 6:30 in the morning. And Cassie relayed to Kid Cudi that Diddy had found out that the two were dating, and she sounded kind of stressed during this phone call. So what Kid Cudi did was he picked her up, he took her to a hotel called Sunset Marquis, so that way it was a little safe for her to kind of hang out there and be at that hotel. But Kid Cudi at the time said he didn't think that Cassie was even dealing with Diddy at this point. Diddy had asked actually for Kid Cudi's address around this time, and one of the big moments was that Cassie was the one who actually
Are y'all surprised Cassie gave up the address? I was. Fair use reaction clip.
Gave Diddy Kid Cudi's address. And so Kid Cudi said he didn't know what Diddy was going to do. Then when he was at the hotel, he actually got a call, or he had spoken to Capricorn Clark, somebody that was Cassie's friend, but also somebody that had worked for Diddy. And so when Kid Cudi was speaking to Capricorn Clark,
it's employee pricing.
Hold on. Fair use reaction clip. Yeah, that was kind of sad too. That was kind of sad when they seen this when he walked in the room and she was out of it, and that guy jetted off. No, that's not a good look. You got your girl in that situation. He had no love for her, no respect for her, none.
phone call, pretty much on the verge of tears, because it was Diddy, one of his affiliates, an unnamed person, and Capricorn Clark were at Kid Cudi's home. Kid Cudi was kind of describing that essentially Capricorn Clark was essentially taken by physical force to go with them to Kid Cudi's home while Kid Cudi wasn't even there. So Kid Cudi could verify that Sean Combs, aka Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, whatever we're calling him, was inside his home when he wasn't there. Kid Cudi said that he actually went home after speaking with Capricorn Clark and just kind of rushed over there. Then we see an exhibit photo of the entrance of Kid Cudi's old home. It's the home of the break-in, and you see the front gate door. And he described his neighborhood at the time being as far as being very quiet, family-oriented, and they had to kind of mention that he was driving a Porsche around.
And did y'all hear they had moved his cameras around? Now, how you gonna move somebody's cameras around? They didn't want to be spotted doing XYZ. I don't know if they even got the car issue on camera. Yeah, they moved his cameras around. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Concerning
that time. So Kid Cudi actually called Diddy while he was driving home, and there was some profanity here, so bear with me, everyone. He said, "Mother effer, are you in my house?" And Diddy said, "I just want to talk to you. I'm here waiting for you." And surprisingly, Kid Cudi explained that Diddy sounded relatively calm while he was on the phone speaking to him. So Kid Cudi thought his security cameras were working, and turns out he said someone kind of had moved them and angled them a little bit down, so that way I guess whatever was going on wasn't captured on that video.
See?
And they had moved them the opposite angle, and said Kid Cudi verified he wasn't the one one who moved those security cameras. But when he got home, Jesse, he said gifts were open on the kitchen counter. Stuff was pretty expensive. It was from Chanel. And that his dog, surprisingly, was locked in the bathroom. Now, his dog normally roams around free like a lot of our pets normally do. I mean, my cats right now are probably wandering around. I would never lock them inside the bathroom while I'm out of home or anything like that. So I can understand why that really stood out to him as far as his dog being inside the bathroom with the door closed. But he had that dog for about a 2-year period and noticed that after this break-in had happened, that his dog became jittery and was always on edge at the time. So Kid Cudi got back into his car, he says, and called Diddy because he wanted to fight Diddy. He wanted to square up essentially and just find him and fight him because he believed that Diddy broke into his home. And so he said after this phone call, he thought,
yeah, it's physical, it's mental. His employees deal with mental. I will fire you if you don't do this. People around him felt fear. And that's what they're trying to make sure that people understand. You should never be this fearful of your boss. Never. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. And like I said, you would not want this for your mother, your aunt, or your niece. Some people are doing this, and that's why they're making certain comments in the comment section. And that's why I ignore a lot of it. Some men are sick just like him. Allege. I'm not a doctor. I can't confirm or deny that he's sick, but it seems like he's sick. Hello. Fair use reaction clip.
About the reality of the situation and what more could possibly escalate from that situation. So what he ended up doing is he just called the police, and when he had returned home, because remember he was driving around with Diddy essentially.
We're talking more about swinging because he just did what to Kid Cudi's car. See, I think too, some people don't really be paying attention. Cassie tried to get out and date other people, and Diddy did not want her to leave. Diddy asked Cassie's parents to give him $20K because she wanted to leave. And then they paid it, and then a week later, he gave it back. Now, did he give it back? The person made a great point. Did he give it back and for her to come back? She would leave, and he would send his team to go get her. He would take her car, and see, that's the thing, too. He was gifting her stuff where he could take it back. It's not like it was stuff of her own. He was taking back stuff he gave her. So be careful of the gifts you accept, baby. Be careful of the gifts you accept, because when they mad and it's mad day, they can take that stuff away. Like the video.
And when he returned home, the police were there at his home. He filed a report, and then he was speaking with Cassie about the situation.
Serious illnesses.
Pretty depressed about the situation.
And it affected. Yeah, we're hearing a lot of them. It affected a lot of them. Did you check on my short in regards to day 26? That guy will never be the same. And he said he takes stuff daily. They'll never be the same after working with. And even if you were alleged threatened with your job, some of these people don't sound like they're the same, period. This was my dream job, but man, once I saw what he was doing to Cassie, had to get out. There ain't no way. How would you feel? Oh, a lot of us work. A lot of us work outside of. Could you imagine hearing that your boss laid hands on a woman and you at the workplace? What could he do to me? He did what to his girlfriend? Wait, what? He seems so nice. What? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Craziness.
He was on the stand, and then he had said, because this is in.
So we're with Rick once again.
Fair use reaction clip. Like the video. There's about 348 in the building. Can I please get 300 people to please subscribe? And thank you. Let's continue. Fair use. Hold on.
Shortly after that, Kid Cudi had spent the holidays with Cassie over at her family's home in Connecticut, and then they broke up shortly after. But the thing is, a few weeks later,
be kind in the comments.
Again, a few weeks after his break-in, his car caught on fire, or not even caught on fire.
We don't do weird stuff over here. Goodbye.
To the driver's side of his car, of his Porsche, mind you, and we saw a lot of exhibit photos from that Molotov cocktail being inside, or not being inside that car, but we saw the aftermath.
I hope I didn't time out the wrong person for 30 minutes.
Photo of the damaged car. You could see a cut at the top of the roof from the Molotov cocktail. The roof was blown out. Kid Cudi had said his friend Chip, who was one of his best friends, took those photos because he had got a call from his dog sitter at the time that essentially his car was on fire. So he had rushed back home to see what happened. Lo and behold, this entire incident happened. So we saw more exhibit photos of the burned.
Be kind in the comments.
Doors, smoke damage. Again, that whole.
Not only do I delete, YouTube will delete some of your comments too. So be kind in the comments. Let's continue. Fair use. This is helping some people understand. Be careful who you date. Be careful who you get a job by. Be careful who you date after a certain person. You got to make sure they're you're hearing that they're kind in the streets. You got to give it time before you jump in with somebody. Good morning, Toronto. Good morning.
The roof, damage to the driver's side car, burned seats. He said when he arrived home he did see the damage to his car, and he saw the Molotov cocktail. He saw that burnt bottle on the ground right next to the outside of his car. So he said police were actually there when he had arrived home, and his car wasn't even able to be repaired after this fire. And so they had said that this cocktail was in the driver's seat, and his
Good
reaction,
morning, Texas.
to your point, Jesse,
One of my
earlier about him
faves.
just being so casual while he was on the stand in his one-liners. Well, his one-liner for his reaction about a Molotov cocktail being lodged into his car was, what the F? And obviously I can't say what the F means, but we all know kind of from that. But as far as just the aftermath of it, there was this whole meeting.
I was thinking about that the other day, Paris. 20 million people know who you are because you're the one I really talk to all the time. 20 million people know who Paris is. That's what's up. Hey.
Soho House, where essentially Diddy and Kid Cudi shook hands. Kid Cudi said that he didn't necessarily believe Diddy when Diddy had said, Kid Cudi had said something along the lines of, what are we going to do about my car? And Diddy said to Kid Cudi, I don't know what you're talking about. But as we ended the redirect, because there was some cross-examination in between that essentially Kid Cudi believed Diddy was lying about this because, you know, there were some objections thrown here and there. But he kind of snuck in there that he believed that Diddy was a violent person and was the reason behind this Molotov cocktail in his car.
Just unbelievable testimony. So as I mentioned before, it not only helps corroborate Cassandra Ventura's account, but kidnapping, arson, these are key crimes for the racketeering statute. These are exactly what the prosecution is looking for. And you can
Morning,
see how
California.
Kid Cudi is filling in the pieces of that. And by the way, having Kid Cudi, a star of that, I don't know how much the jury actually knows about Kid Cudi, but having him testify, that's compelling for the prosecution. Although I will tell you, I thought it was interesting what the defense was trying to do.
So, since she allegedly tried to date Michael B. Jordan, will Michael B. Jordan also have to take the stand? Will Chris Brown have to take the stand? We're just wondering who she tried to date or hang out with outside of Kid Cudi. Let's continue. Fair use. Reaction clip.
Him under cross-examination. What were some of the highlights of cross-examination? I believe it was being conducted by Brian Steele, who, as we know, no stranger.
Let's take a step back, y'all. Let's think about how Diddy feeling in court. He hearing all this stuff about people he's been around, work with. Could you imagine going back to your cell? It's like, dang, people don't like me. You know what I'm saying? He tries to be Mr. Love. Could you imagine him going back to his cell every night? And he got to think about what's being said about him on that stand. Toast. People are saying toast. You know? So his employees are talking, Cassie, and then they said they wish they could bring Cassie back. No, she's pregnant, big pregnant. You know, because certain things that they wish Cassie would have said. The one thing I think they're basically saying Cassie should have said, a lot of things happened around his friends at parties and different events. A lot of his friends saw stuff, period. Like the video, fair use, reaction clip.
The high-profile people in the music industry. He famously represented Young Thug in his trial. What was the cross-examination about there?
Well, another time we could actually see Brian Steele in action, because so far we've only seen him cross-examine one other witness, and that being Officer Israel Flores, one of the first witnesses called in this trial. But we really got to see Brian Steele once again in action, and he has just such a different tone from some of the other defense attorneys. He's not very flashy or very showy, and I don't mean that in a bad way or anything like that. He's really just straight to the point. It doesn't seem like when he's cross-examining a witness, it's because he wants a reaction from the audience, and the audience being the gallery or any of the jurors. He really just kind of wants to get straight to the point with the cross-examination. And so what he was getting to under cross was that there were fingerprints taken, there was DNA collected. However, this DNA came back to a female, according to the defense. However, there was an objection. That objection was sustained, so that part will be kind of struck. And then he was kind of essentially gearing this a little bit more towards Cassie. Brian Steele had said something along the lines of, Cassie played you, and Kid Cudi responded, yes. Brian Steele was asking Kid Cudi about his music career and how popular he was, especially around that time frame. And, around that time frame, I was still in high school. But Kid Cudi was...
Okay, so it's being reported when Cassie was dating Kid Cudi, allegedly, she was still hanging out with Diddy. And I don't think Kid Cudi knew that. So allegedly, Kid Cudi felt that he was played. Like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Please double tap the screen, you guys. Let's get the likes up. If you're watching from a phone, press 1. Please double tap the screen to hit the like button. If you're watching from a phone, please press 1 to double tap the screen to hit the like button. The like button is above the video or below the video. Thank you. Press 1, double tap the screen, and subscribe. Thank you. Let's continue. Fair use.
So huge around that time frame. So I think what the defense was trying to do was possibly
Thank
allude
you.
that maybe it was a deranged fan who had did this, and it wasn't necessarily Brian Steele's client at the time, or client now, that being Diddy. But then Brian Steele was kind of trying to be like, oh, you did drugs with Cassie. And Kid Cudi was like, well, we smoked some weed. And I think the defense was trying to also get in Cassie's sexual history as well, too, whether or not Kid Cudi and Cassie were intimate.
Thank you.
However,
like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Yeah, there's a lot going on, y'all. Think about if this was somebody you knew or a boss. This would be very interesting to hear how they act.
And as we all know, with the sidebars, there's a lot.
And as he sit in jail, he kind of see why he's in jail. Hello, he gets up early to meet with his attorneys, and if I'm not mistaken, he asked to stay up late or something like that. He made recent requests of the court to get there early, like by 2 hours early, and to possibly stay up late so he can go over the documents or something like that. Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Don't forget to subscribe. There's about 200 in the building. If I could please get 200 people to subscribe, and thank you. Let's continue.
Lot of static noise, so we don't know what they're talking about. They kind of huddle off into a corner. They kind of go through, I guess, the arguments. The jury's still inside that courtroom, but us in the gallery and the jurors even too, we hear this just loud static noise. So I'm not sure kind of what the bottom or what they got to as far as the bottom of just this sidebar, but Brian Steele was just essentially kind of trying to paint it as that Cassie essentially played Kid Cudi. And so when Brian Steele was cross-examining Kid Cudi just about whether or not Cassie had told Kid Cudi about sexual abuse, and Kid Cudi responded she never did. Kid Cudi surprisingly said that he was in love with Cassie. Right. He also said that he never saw Diddy hit her, and Diddy never interrupted Cassie and Kid Cudi when they were together. And so far from what I could see, even of the jurors, kind of while Brian Steele was cross-examining Kid Cudi, the jury seemed very engaged with this testimony. I mean, they're always engaged, but you could really tell that they were super engaged about this, probably especially after seeing those exhibit photos. Then we kind of get into the Soho House meeting, and that was the meeting where Kid Cudi, Cassie, and Diddy himself all got together. They all kind of just hashed everything out, and that was surprisingly the last time Kid Cudi had seen Cassie. And so Brian Steele was asking Kid Cudi, she was living two different lives, and Kid Cudi responded yes. And so
I don't blame Kid Cudi for breaking up with her. And now, as he's hearing the testimony and what she was going through, I'm sure he's glad he did. Fair use reaction clip.
Then they kind of ended the cross-examination as far as Cassie was the one who gave Mr. Combs your address, and Kid Cudi responded yes. So those were some of the biggest highlights
Kind of
of
sad.
the cross-examination. Obviously, I took a whole bunch of notes, so I could really get into the weeds of it, but I know for time and everything like that, I can't say everything right now.
well, you do provide such incredible detail, and we appreciate it because there are no cameras in there, but I know you have to head back into court. Look, it seemed to me that they were really trying to assassinate Cassandra Ventura's character, questioning her motives, questioning if she's manipulative of both Kid Cudi and Sean Combs, the burner phones, things of that nature. So, a lot more to discuss. Elizabeth Milner, thank you so much. I know you have to head into...
Yeah, Cassie was trying to date Kid Cudi and Diddy. They're alleging there might have been an FO when she was dating Kid Cudi. Allege. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. Health-wise, these men need to be careful who they're dating. And when you ask somebody if you're over your ex, you're finished with your ex. When's the last time you saw your ex? You know what I'm saying? Yes, I think they said the same time. And that's why Diddy was kind of like, you didn't know she was still doing FOs with me. That's what was alleged. Yeah. Yeah, it was alleged that, See, Diddy found out. I'm trying to remember how he found out about Kid Cudi. Was it her phone, or did one of his staff tell? He found out a certain way, and then he got mad. And then remember how Cassie was a little jealous when they were on a break, and Cassie had said, "Oh, I heard you're dating a yoga instructor or somebody that works out." And so he was like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just over here chilling." So there was a little jealousy. Yeah, gross. It's almost like she was trying to get a feel if Kid Cudi would be a great fit. But if she was dating Kid Cudi, Paris, do you realize Kid Cudi didn't give her the 20K? He liked her, but he didn't like her that much. He didn't give her the 20K though. Remember, because Diddy was mad. Oh, you gonna date somebody else? I want 20K from your family. Kid Cudi didn't give her that 20K. And I don't blame him. If I'm gonna date you, so that's why that was a lot for Kid Cudi. Your car, him getting in your house, and then Diddy asking the family for 20K, and the family had to take out a second mortgage. And then he gave the money back. So like I said, follow the money. I'm wondering if his financials are going to be talked about. His financials. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Great reporting as always.
Thanks, Jesse.
Now we're going to continue the conversation in a minute, but before we hit a quick break, I got to tell you, when you listen to this P. Diddy trial and you're hearing the arguments from both sides, I got to say, for me, It seems to make sense. It seems to remind me about how important having a great lawyer matters. And that's why I want to bring up real quick our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, who helps make this show possible. If you don't know who they are, they're American.
Okay, so that's why if y'all think I don't listen to stuff, I do. I listen to stuff. That's why I'm able to tell y'all what happened in court prior to. I like great, clear conversation. That's why I let the news tell us what's transpiring. So I appreciate y'all for being here. I do. I appreciate y'all for being here, tuning in. Kid Cudi did a good job in speaking up and speaking out. And some famous people are like, you know, you should be ashamed of yourself for taking a stand. What? He got into my house. He ruined one of my cars. And the car that Kid Cudi had was very, very expensive, y'all. Very, very expensive. So you can't act like I'm not supposed to respond if somebody's mistreating me. Because Kid Cudi thought him and Cassie, he liked her. Kid Cudi really liked her. But he felt played.
Hotel on the stand.
Expensive car.
Rapper Kid Cudi today. He testified about a break-in at his house, at one point comparing Combs to a marble.
So it's very clear that wasn't the only car Kid Cudi had. But a lot of times people will have like an SUV or something big to kind of get around, and then you got like a little sports car when you and your girls is hanging out. So that might have been his second car or third car. We don't know. But to ruin a car, check this out, y'all. I'm glad the car wasn't so close to the house too, though. The house could have went up in flames. You know what I'm saying? But for somebody to have to call you and say your car is on fire, could you imagine getting that call? It's like, why? What's going on? Why? Let's continue. Fair use ration clip.
Supervillain. The rapper, whose real name is Scott Biscotti, also testifying about his car being set on fire, allegedly after Combs found out he was dating Cassie Ventura. Now, prosecutors allege Combs firebombed Biscotti's car, an allegation it could try to weave into the racketeering conspiracy count involving arson. Now, Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges. Also today, Diddy's former assistant, who was granted immunity, testifying about what he claims he saw happen on a private plane and an apple throwing incident that he called the last straw working for Diddy. Coming up, Kid Cudi's next.
Will Gina take the stand? Will they be able to get her to the stand? And will Young Miami take the stand? Big question. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Message for fans after his big day in court. Plus, it's one of the most searched topics tonight. What people want to know about Kid Cudi's dog. I want to get right to Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katursky, who has been in the courtroom every day of this trial. Aaron, let's get right into Kid Cudi appearing in court. Paint the picture for us. How did he walk in?
Unlike any other witness that we have seen so far, he's in a leather jacket, white t-shirt, jeans, and smoking a cigarette as he's entering court, and then he takes his position.
Exactly. Who do he think he is doing that to somebody? It's to put fear and control. Anybody that tried to be close to Cassie, something was already let me see. Something was done to them. Remember how me and you, Paris, was talking about he put hands and hit Cassie's friend with a hanger? He's going to put fear in that person for being in Cassie's life, because you might get her to be somewhat who she was, the bright light, the fun loving, the model, doing ads. He wanted to control everything, and he wanted to distance people from Cassie. That's what that major control is. That's what physical and mental people do to people. They try to bring you down. They don't want nobody to bring joy into your life. They want you to stay right there where they want you. So concerning, so controlling, so toxic, and so unhealthy. And I think when Alex came into her life, it was a bright light, because it seems as if Diddy wasn't really concerned about Alex, because Alex wasn't in the industry. Yeah, he worked out with famous people, but Diddy didn't see him as, oh, you're a major actor. That's going to make me look dumb. Oh, you're a musician. Oh, you might have better music than me. He was probably like, cool. Maybe because he had his eyes on somebody else. But aren't you surprised that Cassie was able to get away with Alex? He wouldn't let her be with a Chris Brown. He thought Cassie danced with Chris Brown, and he got mad. He thought she was dating Michael B. But he thought that, of course, she was dating Kid Cudi. And he got mad. The control of it all. He's like, nobody can be in her life but me. He basically was like, I'm going to control everything. Outfits, friendships, and then to put the fear in the family. That was on purpose. That was on purpose. Any friends? Think about what the makeup artist said. Yeah. She was desperate for normal friendships because he had her locked in. And that's what, when you feel like, when you think about it, she's a young woman. And of course, she's going to have craves. So you're telling me I can't have normal people in my life. I can't have normal friendship in my life. I can't date somebody normal. You're going to come in and ruin that friendship. He wanted her to crave him and the FOs. You want it? You're going to have to crave me and the FOs if you want it. Being a young girl, you know, craziness. Like the video, fair use reaction clip.
Comfortably in the witness box, surveys the room. The jury is interested in this figure because he's a Grammy-winning rapper and introduced himself as Scott Muscudi. And when asked, "Are you better known as any other name?" and he said, "Kid Cudi." And right from the start, you knew this was a unique witness. And he talked about two instances in particular.
That's why they tried to discredit the psychologist or the person that talks about mental and physical. That's why they tried to discredit her. Well, how much do you make in doing these court appearances? How much do you make in your office? That's why they tried to discredit her, because they're trying to normalize how he was treating her and acting with her and not allowing her to date outside of. And if she leaves, I'm going to take your car. I'm going to take your phone. My team going to come and get you. We're going to find you wherever you at, because I know all your friends. Scary. Scary. Not, and don't forget, the hotel called the police in regards to that video. The hotel called the police. And then sometimes when the police would get there, Cassie wouldn't speak because she was probably thinking about the next contact time with him. Oh, that's what you did? And see, that might be some of the times. And then remember how Dawn said, "Cassie, you need to leave." Cassie then told Diddy that Dawn said that. So when you're far gone, you're far gone. Cassie went through a lot mentally. Real talk. The FOs in itself is gross and sickening, but she went through a lot, and she was on substances. So it's a bad look. It's a bad look. And see, he knew that at some point she gonna crave something. She a young girl. So she was to crave him and those FOs. And that's why he had her organizing them. And that's why sometimes she would be like, "Well, I want to be with you." "Well, you got to do this and then you could be with me." Sickening. Gross. So then he would meet up with Cassie, then go home to Kim, R.I.P. to Kim Porter. Then you would go home and act like everything's normal. So you don't think those kids are sitting in the room thinking about, wow, whenever you were gone for several days, there was no parties going around. That's what you was doing? Ugh. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. There's about 312 in the building. Please, if I get 300 people to please subscribe. We're trying to get to 37K. We're trying to get, oh, we actually hit it. Wait, y'all, we did hit 37K pairs. We hit 37K. Let's continue. Fair use.
Where he said that Sean Combs broke into his house, and he told the jury about his suspicions that later Sean Combs arranged the firebombing of his car.
Okay, Aaron, give us his vibe. What was he like on the stand? How did the jury react to all of this?
He was pretty casual. If he didn't understand something, he'd look at the lawyer and just go, "Huh? Or what?" And at one point, he let out a big yawn when he's talking about things that, have been.
He had her all messed up. But just think about how the employees are treated and talked to, too. People around him, there was supposed to be fear, period. And everybody around. There's supposed to be fear. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Talked about in the entertainment world for more than a decade, this car fire that Kid Cudi endured in 2012. But it's significant now, Eva, as federal prosecutors try to convince the jury that Sean Combs used arson as part of the criminal enterprise that he was running.
There was a whole scuttlebutt about if he could talk about what happened to his dog. What was that all about?
Oh, so he accuses Sean Combs of breaking into his house after he finds out that he's dating Cassie Ventura. And he says when he got to the house, he found some Christmas gifts open, unwrapped, that he had bought for his family, and his dog locked up in the bathroom. And he said it made the dog kind of permanently jittery and very much on edge. I think federal prosecutors had wanted to know a little bit about the dog and how the dog responded to the house.
Now, I'm wondering if Peter's going to make some statements and get in front of that courtroom. You know what I'm saying? I'm wondering if Peter's going to get out there and make some statements in front of that courtroom. Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Thank you for being here, everyone. Thanks for supporting the channel. Let's continue.
You broke it into. And the judge at one point, because the defense objective was confused.
Thank you for the $5. I appreciate you. That's my first $5 for the week. Thank you. It just says P. I'm worried if I hit it. Thank you for the $5. That's my first $5 this week. I think Paris had did a membership. So thank you. Fair use reaction clip. That's you? Oh, the picture looks interesting, Paris. Okay. I didn't want to hit it. Thank you, Paris. You're the best. Thank you. You're just like, that's
like
me.
You're going to talk about the trauma inflicted on the dog.
Back in the day, it was show Paris. Now this is different. Yeah. Thank you, Paris. I appreciate you always.
And the judge said, well, I know this is a very important topic. You laughed a little bit. And unfortunately, the prosecutor said the dog is no longer with us. But Kid Cudi's clearly a dog lover. He said that he found out from his dog's babysitter, the words he used, that his car was on fire.
Okay.
One early morning phone call that he received from this woman to say that his porch had been torched.
Cassie Ventura's former makeup artist was also on the stand today. What did she say?
Mila Morales said she first met Cassie Ventura Eva when she was about 16 years old. She had made her up for various events over the years, but she recalled Grammy Award weekend in 2010. She said they had been out. Prince was having a party. They were out for dinner. They finally get back to the Beverly Hills Hotel. Mila Morales falls asleep, but she says Cassie Ventura comes in a moment later and almost immediately followed by Sean Combs. And Sean Combs demands, where the F is she? Cassie Ventura had gone into the bedroom. Sean Combs followed her in there. Mila Morales says she heard screaming and a commotion. Sean Combs storms out of the hotel suite. And when Mila Morales next sees Cassie Ventura, she has a black eye, knots on her head. She took her home and had a doctor friend come and examine her to see if she had a concussion. The doctor apparently recommended that Cassie Ventura go to the ER, but Morales said she didn't want to go.
We also heard from the general manager of an upscale Beverly Hills hotel on the stand today. He talked about hotel logs. Why?
This was from L'Hermitage in Beverly Hills, and Sean Combs had stayed there a bunch over the years, according to the reservation log. And with each guest that was a repeat visitor, there was what was called a profile log established. And under the heading for Sean Combs, it said that housekeepers had noticed that there was always candle wax all over the place, and that he used a lot of oil. And the jury had already heard candle wax, baby oil, those were things.
Okay, everyone, I need to end the live. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you all. Have a great weekend. Be blessed. Focus on healthy, safe relationships. Bye.